Welcome to the Fellowship of the Films podcast, a podcast where we discuss movies, TV, and other pop culture related topics. My name's Duncan. We have Ryan here. Ryan, say hi.
I am Ryan.
And we have Xavier.
Hello there.
Xavier is also here.
Xavier is a special guest for today. He's like one of our...
Very special.
We don't really know him. He just showed up here today. He wandered in as we were starting the podcast, and we were just like, this hobo can participate.
We need a third guest. We're feeling it.
Xavier, introduce yourself with something, like your favorite couple movies or something, or what you like to talk about it.
What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is orange.
Perfect.
I like orange. And I like any movies with lots of world building, like Dune or Lord of the Rings, that kind of thing. Game of Thrones. Not a movie.
That's not a movie.
Well, we did say we cover TV as well.
Yeah.
So today we're going to discuss a few things. We're going to discuss some of the latest DC trailers, and then we're going to follow that up with a DC movie that we watched the other day.
Yes.
Watchmen, the Ultimate Cut. Let's start by talking about these trailers just to kind of ease into it here. So this past weekend was the San Diego Comic-Con, and we got a new trailer for Black Adam, the second one.
Yes.
And second trailer, not the second movie.
Second Black Adam.
Yes, no. And a trailer for...
The first trailer.
A trailer for Black Adam, the movie.
And the first trailer
and
for the second
Shazam.
For the second they understand.
Yes.
And so we're going to start by discussing these. Let's start with the Black Adam one.
Yep.
Because we have more info going into that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys feel about the first Black Adam trailer?
Extremely meh. It did not get me excited at all.
You were underwhelmed by it.
Underwhelmed. It
Ryan?
seemed like a boring superhero movie.
It was a trailer that had Black Adam in it. That's about it.
Agreed.
Okay. I was a little more positive about it, but I was still a little bit underwhelmed. I was just kind of more excited because I wanted to be. I was still relatively underwhelmed. Starting with Xavier again, did this trailer change anything? What did you think of this? Did it shuffle anything around for you?
It still felt like sort of a nothing special of a superhero movie, but I definitely felt more excited about this one. I don't know if I was just in a better mood or something, but I definitely felt after watching this one I felt more excited to see. I guess like it showed more of the other DC characters, I think, than the other trailer, which I thought was cool. It'll be cool to see some of those brand new characters on the screen. But yeah, definitely more positive, not super excited though.
Okay. Ryan?
See, I kind of agree with you, Xavier. I thought I was a lot more positive on the second trailer, actually. Just because it actually had, it like you said, it did show, some of the characters, especially, like, there's some cool scenes, I have to say, especially in that trailer, which, cool scenes don't make a movie, but they do help.
Yep, definitely.
And, yeah, overall, I thought it was...
Pacific Rim is one of my favorite movies, and that's just cool scenes.
It's just cool scenes, yes, but it's also...
Yeah, there's other aspects.
There's other things in the movie. But overall, I thought it was good. It did, like, I went from being meh to being like, okay, I could see myself possibly enjoying this movie depending on what the rest of the contents are. Now, like, we're going to see if this is a Suicide Squad or The Suicide Squad.
Right.
So,
well, we might have to wait for the Black Adam. For me, I liked it a lot more. They have to still sell me on the story because I don't really get the story yet. They haven't really teased the story. They've said Black Adam, he's like a bad guy who's supposed to be good or something.
And his son died.
But apart from that, we don't have much story apart from that. I sure hope there's more than just them being like, you need to help people and be good, and him being like, no. But this trailer, it had a lot better scenes. Like, there was one where all the Dr. Fates were holding him back. Like, there was multiple of them. Or there was... He, like, punched Hawkman at one point. That looked really cool.
Cool.
I think one of the things I'm most excited for this movie is I like how it looks visually. It looks like they've had a lot of time to work on the special effects and stuff and the CGI. It looks really nice visually. So if nothing else, I think that'll be a pro to it. And it just has to keep up with maybe The Rock hopefully giving a good performance and the story being solid.
Yeah, The Rock tends to be a charming actor, so he should should bring something to it.
The only thing I'm concerned about is The Rock playing The Rock instead of The Rock playing Black Adam.
Right.
But
what is the Black Adam's character from the comics? What do you know about his Do you know anything about his?
I don't know that much about him, which
Okay.
means mainstream is going to know even less. So I don't think there's really a precedence to like a standard to get to.
Right.
He's like
So-
Shazam, but his suit's a different color.
Ah.
He's angry.
And he kills people.
Dark Shazam. That kills people. Ooh.
I do really like some of the lines from this so far. Like it's like heroes don't kill people, and he's like, well, I do. It's
That
corny.
was from
It's
the
corny.
teaser, right?
Yeah, it's corny, but I like that. Okay, so we're all a little more positive on this trailer, but it's still yet to really sell us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got time. Plenty of time.
And the trailers can be bad for a good movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
They also don't seem to be showing a ton or giving a ton away, which I enjoy because I hate when movies just the entire plot from the trailer.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the
Agreed.
worst. Then
I
I
just-
just go see the movie.
It feels like all the action scenes they've showed are from the same action scene. The battle with Justice Society, Hawkman, Dr. Fate. It feels like those are all from the same scene, essentially. So I just
It
hope...
does feel very homogenous between all of the fights. Definitely.
So I hope that there's more than just that. I hope that all the shots we're getting aren't like a final battle with that Justice Society, and then that's it. I hope there's more to it than that. But any thoughts to add?
No, overall,
Nope.
I'm more excited than I was before.
Definitely.
So if you haven't seen the trailer, right, click the link in the description to go watch it.
Should have put that at the start, but
Yeah,
it works
figure
here
it
as
out.
well.
Okay, next thing we're going to discuss a little bit more fresh news because we didn't have any thoughts going in apart from our thoughts of the first movie, Shazam 2, which is called Fury of the Gods. It's the first trailer. It was
out.
released. Yeah, it's out now.
And it's also in the link in the description too.
Yeah, to
At
see,
the start
he's,
this time.
he's ahead.
He's learning.
Yes.
Of all of it.
Clever girl.
Xavier, thoughts?
This one I didn't have really any strong thoughts. Sort of like the first, better than the first Shazam trailer. Somewhat positive, but sort of meh. It seemed interesting, like a whole family of superheroes. I enjoyed that, but that concept. Oh, and the giant zombie dragon thing. That was really cool. But overall, not extremely excited.
Okay, Ryan.
I find this. I like the original Shazam movie, and I find this trailer it does seem to give off like a similar energy to
Absolutely,
that movie did.
agreed.
So you know what? Honestly, I think if they kind of like, depending on what could be, like, I don't know. I kind of see it as like a vision of what couple different visions of what the movie could be, and if it's like a solid two of them, it's gonna be a good movie.
Okay.
If it's the other two, no. But like we'll see.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
My thoughts on this are, I think I could easily see myself liking it more than the first one because I thought one of the first one's downfalls was it seemed like we spent a lot of time on things that weren't Shazam, and I was just like, I wanted to turn into Shazam and do Shazam things, and it felt like we spent a lot of time on his family and character building, all those people, which is fine,
But
I
now
hope
they're all Shazam.
I hope the second one they go a little bit more full superhero and we get more superhero stuff in it, if you know what I'm saying.
Also, just another note I just thought of. Shazam, it comes out after Black Adam does, right?
Black Adam's October, Shazam's December.
Okay, so it comes out later then.
Yeah.
Okay, so potentially, now, not to be that guy, but also potential crossover, right?
I would not see in the movie, but I could see a post-credit
Post-credit
scene
scene,
connecting
yeah.
the two.
Because like at the
They
end
seem
of
like very different sort of like vibes to them, sort of energies to them.
the only reason
Black Adam seems very serious, and then Shazam, if it's anything like the first one, is not going to be
very
super
not
serious.
serious. But the thing I see is right, like I don't see like in the movie, but like a post-credit scene or whatever.
Right? Yeah.
Because they did like hint towards that at the end of Shazam or whatever, right? Because in the post-credit scene of Shazam, there's one extra chair or whatever, right? Who could that be for?
Oh.
I actually forgot about that. That's a good point.
I don't remember much of Shazam, to be honest. I've seen it so long ago. Just once.
Sounds like we need a rewatch.
Yeah.
Maybe we can review it on here.
Alright.
I don't know. I could see. I like the larger scale of this one. This feels like it's to a larger scale. Some of the action scenes they've showed in that trailer, it feels like it could. The first one felt very homely and small, whereas this one looks like it would be a more grand thing. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Also, the title "Fury of the Gods" also tends to,
Yeah. They seem more
grand.
Perhaps the
grand.
gods may show some fury.
Holy.
Maybe.
We can only hope.
Any final thoughts on that? Any? Nope.
I don't know. I
zombie dragon thing, cool.
That's a thumbs up for me. Yeah.
Oh, plums up.
Plums up, boys.
Have we got a new catchphrase?
It's plums up.
Thumbs up. We'll say that at the end again.
Yep.
No chance we remember that.
Okay,
No.
so we're gonna get to the main course here. Now that we're done the appetizers.
Silver platter.
We done watched the 4-hour movie.
Yes, so we went back in DC history and went back to 2009
2009.
and watched The Watchmen.
A bunch of men watching The Watchmen.
Yes. There was some watching of men in there.
And some watching of women, too, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. If you don't see it,
Okay,
you know,
so
you
before
know.
we get canceled, we watched the Ultimate Cut, which was a rather lengthy film. I think it was close to 4 hours.
The big boy cut, yes.
Yeah. So if some things are different, if you've seen a different cut, there is the theatrical cut, the director's cut, and the ultimate cut.
They like
we
cutting.
watched the longest one.
It has everything.
Now, neither of you'd seen this going in, right?
Correct.
Nah.
Xavier, you'd read.
I just finished reading the graphic novel, like a few days prior to watching it.
Okay, and I had seen the director's cut of this a little while ago, but I remembered very little. And Ryan had seen nothing.
I've heard it's a movie before.
He's heard
And
it.
you'd also seen the TV show.
I have seen the TV show as well, but that's not connected.
Right.
All right.
So let's start with. We're going in the same trend here. Let's start with your thoughts, Xavier. Let's broad overall thoughts, and then we'll get deep into it.
I felt I liked the Watchmen world for its world building. They got a lot more into it, obviously, in the graphic novel because they had so much more time, space to work with. But overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing all the characters that I'd read about on screen. It was a fun time, and it was long, but it didn't feel too long to me.
Were you pleased, as someone who read the graphic novel first, were you pleased with what they did? If you were to watch that in theaters, having read the graphic novel like before and really liked it, would you have been pleased with that?
Definitely wasn't disappointed by the movie. It wasn't worse than the graphic novel, like objectively, I don't think, but I enjoyed it less for sure. I definitely enjoyed the graphic novel more. It definitely got more into the characters, which was into their backstories and explaining all the intricacies, which I really, really enjoyed.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Ryan, initial thoughts.
Well, I thought it was overall. I liked. With no knowledge of this world, I quite liked the movie. There was a couple things that I thought it was. We did go jump into the big boy cut, so I thought it might have been a tad long, but that's almost kind of the point. But still, it felt a little bit slow at times. But overall, I like the characters. There's some good moments. There's good action, some good humor in there, and overall, was it worth the time? I'd say so, but it just felt a little bit long to me.
Okay. For me, there's a much more positive reaction than the first time I watched it. I don't know if that was to do with age or patience or whatever mindset I was in when I watched it, but I liked it a lot more this time. Length for me wasn't a huge issue. I maybe could have used a halfway break, but apart from that,
An intermission.
Yeah, a little intermission. Apart from that, I didn't really have I thought it moved along enough and had kept me interested throughout. So I wasn't really. I was never bored. When it comes to the actual movie, I enjoyed it. I don't really have any more thoughts until we get into it. There was things I didn't think. Well, we'll get into that. I have a fairly positive view of this. Why don't we get into the deeper topics of this?
Okay. Has
anybody got anything to start with?
Let's start with. I gotta say that this movie, it doesn't talk about the characters as much. But let's start with the characters.
Okay, characters.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in here. My favorite character in the graphic novel is Rorschach, despite him being a jerk.
Yes,
and like not a good person.
Nope.
He was
What?
He's super.
I thought he was a great. That's my role model. You can't. Yeah.
He's super fun character. Well, maybe fun isn't the right word, but he's crazy, entertaining.
Entertaining.
Really entertaining. I love him as a character, and I think they brought. He might have been like the best transition from graphic novel to. They were all pretty good. The characters, like the movie, seems like pretty faithful adaptation, except for the final twist at the end. But seems like a pretty faithful adaptation of the graphic novel, and they brought the characters over quite well. They didn't go as deep into his backstory, obviously, but I just love Rorschach in the graphic novel, and I loved him in the film.
Yeah. Do you think he was represented well in the movie?
And the actor they got from him looks exactly like how they describe him and show him in the graphic novel.
Right.
Nice.
And he has the voice too, as well. The deep, raspy voice that he's sort of perceived as in the graphic novel as well.
I enjoyed Rorschach as well. I thought he was kind of an off the hook kind of version of Batman.
Yeah, I like that. Like Batman, but crazy.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, and he had
still just as confident in his ideas. Still just as much,
but they're a little flawed.
But yeah, definitely some flaws in there.
He had some really good lines, as we've discussed already. Some really good action sequences showing just how absolutely brutal he is. Yeah. What's the line I like? What is the line in there?
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Xavier does the best impression of it.
Yeah. And that's right after he splashes a guy with burning hot oil. Yeah. That scene is intense and it's intense, but also like almost comedic in a way that's so encapsulates like the entire movie. Like it's such a good scene. I just love that scene. It's a good scene. I was one of my favorite reading it in the graphic novel, and I was super excited to see it in the movie, and it was right there, and it lived up to what I was hoping for.
That's good. I think. Nope, I lost it. I had a thought while you were talking.
So, I'm gonna jump in right here.
Okay.
Overall, yeah, I also enjoyed the quality Rorschach moments out here, boys. You know, I'm not good at pronunciation, but I shall continue forward. Overall, I quite liked his character. You know, obviously not perfect, but not in perfect world to be fair. So, you know, I can see it. And overall, like I just have similar thoughts. You know, quality moments, quality everything. Just what my favorite character in the movie, personally.
Yeah.
But then something actually I've noticed. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I feel like there's almost two different versions of Batman in this movie. Right?
There is.
Because you have like the gritty detective, you know, serious you know, dark Batman, right?
Yeah.
As like Rorschach.
Rorschach.
And then you have a more, you know, almost like a Bruce Wayne Batman in like Night Owl, basically, right?
Definitely.
And yeah, overall, I find it interesting because
except like self-conscious. Because he's definitely self-conscious.
But randomly murdering people is bad. But yeah, I gotta say, I like that double take because normally, like, you know, you have like the one detective rolled into one, like a Batman or like or Iron Man would be kind of similar idea basically.
Definitely.
And yeah, normally it's all rolled into one character, whereas it's kind of split into two characters, and you can really see like the dark grittiness in the one, and like, you know, the lighter side in the other, instead of it being like a day night sort of thing like Bruce Wayne and Batman.
I'm gonna add to that. You know what I really enjoyed is how it was essentially narrated by Rorschach.
Yeah, he's the only character who gets narration,
which I enjoyed because typically when you have a character narrating, they're like
the main
character and also the protagonist. They're saying things that you agree with and you're relating with them and you're like, this is a good person I'm following. As Rorschach's narrating, you disagree with things he says. You're like, oh, he's an asshole, he's etc., because not everything he's narrating is good. So I enjoyed that we got to hear the thoughts of not just a classically good character, which is typically what you get with narrating like that. I also really like if we're moving on from Rorschach, I really liked Night Owl too as well. No surprise, I like his suit and everything because he looks like Batman. But it just felt like he was in a movie of people that were all very flawed. It felt like he was the most stable person there, which just naturally made you like him a little bit because he just
he's the character you're meant to like.
Yeah, and even though he does have his moments, where you're almost questioning it, you're like, oh, how much do I like him? He still kind of returns, and by the end of the movie, he's still the most, I would say, the most decent character in the story.
Absolutely.
And I just to add on to that, I find like the couple moments where he does snap, they feel almost understandable, right? Because they're more like that's actually where you get pushed, where like old Rorschach will just stab a man because he like looked at him, or like that one funny joke at the beginning where he's like, yeah, so the one guy who kept pranking all of the suit, like he did that to Rorschach, he chopped him down the elevator shaft.
That was
I think it's actually very effective what they do with having like, so when Night Owl snaps, it means a lot more than just like Rorschach, because Rorschach kills somebody and you're like, okay, another day, but Night Owl snaps and you're like, oh, things are getting serious, because it's a little bit against his character. Other characters,
the comedian,
he was probably one of the shittiest people in the,
yes, he was, and they portray him as even more of a bad person in the graphic novel because they have so much more time to work with to make you hate him. But he's sort of like encapsulates the theme of the Watchmen movie, right? And the graphic novel of this brutal world, right? And the people are the ones that make it brutal.
You're pulling from the graphic novel. I don't have anything to add from that, but that'll be good for anybody listening who has read the graphic novel. The comedian, I don't know. I don't know why he didn't really stick out to me in the movie.
No, he definitely was not.
He was good character. It's just that when he was there, I was like, oh, he's there. He's a mean guy. But when he wasn't there, I kind of forgot he existed. And I don't know why that is.
Partially probably because he died at the beginning.
Yeah, but the
first scene.
I thought he'd have a heavier presence. Still,
Definitely.
There was a lot of scenes with him. I'm not sure why I felt that way. I just felt that when he wasn't in a scene, I kind of
the comedian was really important in the graphic novel, but he's probably the worst transferred over. Like, I agree with Duncan. I sort of forgot about him. I didn't care about him in the movie. I didn't obviously he was important to the story, but still, it almost didn't feel like he was there.
Yeah.
Like it was sort of a meh character to me. Acted well and written well, but just not implemented properly, I think.
Makes sense.
One thing I wanted to mention, are we good on the characters we've discussed so far? Because there's another character I want to bring up.
Alright, yeah.
Dr. Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me. I was kind of weirded out at times because I get that since he's developed this power, like he got given this power, he can kind of see things, so it's changed him as a person. But I thought he would talk more like a human. Like he kind of talks like he's a robot or something. Like he talks very calmly and logically, like he's a robot or a god or something, which essentially he is. And I could see that maybe because of whatever he's able to see, because of his powers, that's changed how he views things and speaks. But he just, I don't know. When they were like, oh, he's a human who just got powers, I kind of thought he'd speak more like a human who's gotten powers and less like a godly being. But
well, he probably did originally, but they mentioned that he was slowly getting more out of touch with humanity. He was slowly losing his humanity over time.
Okay.
See, and I would come to that would make sense to me too as well, right? Just and also because the thing is that gotta mess with you, like because being able to see the future basically that well, that takes
You
away.
can't relate with anyone.
Yeah, because you already know. Like everybody, what's the right word? It's like getting spoiled on a TV show, basically, right? You already
What's
know.
the point of watching the TV show?
You already know what's going to happen, so you're
just.
just going through the motions, like they say in the movie. Like there's almost nothing you can do. No matter what you do, it doesn't
He's
change
a puppet
anything.
that can see his strings.
Exactly.
Right? He knows he has no power.
Yeah, because he knows exactly what's going to happen. He can't change it.
Okay, well that's a good answer to my. That was my only question because it seemed kind of odd to me, but it makes sense if you think about what he's been through, what's actually going through his head. I guess it would make sense.
And you can see that when finally Adrian beat Ozymandias has the tachyons all creating that stops his foresight into the future, and he's suddenly excited. You start to actually see emotion in him because he can't see the future.
Yeah.
So he's getting a new experience that he hasn't had in
many years,
40 years or however long it had been since he died in the field, in the realistic whatever the field generator thing.
The science magic.
The science magic thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, one thing I would like to mention that's sort of disconnected from what we were talking about earlier is Manhattan. At the start, his voice is like interesting. It's not what I expected after reading the graphic novel. It's not what I expected. I was like, oh, this is weird. And then slowly over the movie, I'm like, you know what? Actually, this really fits. I enjoy this voice for him.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's just something I want to put out there.
Oh, and that's definitely, like, especially, like, what's the right word? Like, I know there's a certain, this is kind of a little bit unrelated, but I know there's a certain, like, when reading a character, basically, right? Yeah. Is a lot different than hearing a character.
Exactly.
Because you, like, in your head, like, you come up with, you know, well, how they kind of, each of the, like, I don't know if that's for everybody, but, like, I have, like, a rough idea of what this character feels like, and maybe not, like, a voice for them, but, like, a rough idea of what they are like, right, just from reading on the page. And then seeing them in the movie, it can be completely different than what the little idea I came up with in my head.
Yeah, like, Rorschach transferred exactly from my mind. That's exactly how
Oh, yeah.
But I think for Dr. Manhattan, he's like a character that I didn't really have a parallel for in my mind, so I didn't have anything for a voice in my head, and so I sort of just didn't have anything going in, so when I heard anything, I was surprised. But I think this is what it should have been.
Good interpretation.
Sorry, am I talking too much for you?
No. No, I'm just bothering you while we're sitting here. Sure, I agree with you on. Of course I didn't have any expectation going in, so his voice is just how his voice is to me. But yeah, do we have any other characters we want to talk about?
There was
Ozymandias, Adrian beat. His character is much more compressed, and for being the villain, I think that's being the villain at the end. I think he should have had a little bit more time. Maybe I think he should have been in the spotlight more as portray him as that good character a little bit more throughout the movie.
I agree. I don't even know if you need to just portray. I think he just needs more screen time, basically. Yeah. Just because it felt like, what's the right word? It felt he wasn't really in the movie a lot at the beginning, basically.
And the scenes he wasn't, I was really entertained by him. I really liked all the scenes. The scene where he's first sees Night Owl. Well, not first sees, but
they go talk to each other or whatever.
He talks the way I would expect him to. He's that really eloquent voice.
Oh, he's the smartest man in the world. Yeah. So he obviously knows how.
And he looks very official and.
Oh yeah, and
I think they transferred him really well, but they should have expanded on his scenes more. I think
because I kind of forgot he existed. Honestly, he's one of the other characters I kind of forgot existed because he just wasn't in the movie that much. And then as soon as they started to uncover stuff about Pyramid and other things, I'm like, oh okay, well this is the bad guy, right? But I didn't even know he ran Pyramid to begin with. Basically, they just because they didn't really show the outside or whatever. So I was just as soon as I'm like, wait, that's his office. They're inside the Pyramid base. Wait a minute, that's the same thing. And I'm like, maybe I'm just a tad stupid, but I feel like that connection could have been a little bit more clear. Yeah. And overall, I feel like they could have just expanded his character out a lot. Just showed him being a little bit more also a couple scenes of him being good. Yeah. And maybe a couple more give him a couple more scenes of him actually being the bad guy. for
Yeah.
the bad guy of the movie.
Yeah, his speech in the graphic novel is like probably like 10 or 15 pages long. Like it's just him talking to Rorschach and Night Owl for so long, and it's entertaining to read, even though it's just like fairly monotonous. It's really entertaining still. Written really well.
Well,
that's which I think that doesn't translate as well to film. I think, which is something we'll talk about later. But yeah, overall, I can see what you mean though. Like just giving him some more like time, I think would be good.
You guys are talking about how. I'm going to transition us out of characters here.
Well, actually, I'd like to interject one more thing about Adrian V that I thought was really dumb. The password to his computer is the name of a book on his desk.
Yeah,
the smartest man in the world.
Was it the same in the book in the graphic novel or no?
No. In the graphic novel, he's going through. Okay, his name is Ozymandias, and he figures out. Oh, Ozymandias is Ramses is the Egyptian name for or for Alexander the Great. Ramses the second is the Egyptian name for Alexander the Great, which is Ozymandias'
that's his idol.
Yeah. So it's still pretty in the graphic novel. That's pretty. For the smartest man in the world. That's a bit of a stretch, but it's not as bad as in the movie where it's the name of the movie on his desk.
Yeah, like I do like if they would have done it like that or whatever, some kind of connection like that, that would make it a little bit more sense.
It's a lot more difficult to do that in the movie
in
though,
film,
when you can't get there.
Inner monologue as well, yeah.
Now I was thinking about.
But they did mention Night Owl's love of mythology, which could have, if they brought that in a little bit more throughout the movie, they could have been. Oh, so this is why he was able to figure that out so quickly.
Yeah, payoff.
Yeah, but then I was disappointed when he just read it there.
Yeah. Ramses.
Okay, sorry, that tangent done. Duncan, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna lead into kind of out of characters here, and I noticed you guys were saying a lot about how you would have liked if they would have expanded upon different characters or stuff like that. Is there any parts of the movie, because it was already 4 hours long, pretty much, they're not going to make it longer, even in the extended cut. Extended cut is rarely going to get over 4 hours. Is there anything that you feel could have been taken out that you would have exchanged with more time with the characters you were saying, and more character building, world building?
I know what I'd do.
Take out the Black Freighter?
I would take out the Black Freighter because, I know.
Let's review what the Black Freighter was.
So the Black Freighter was a completely separate arc that involved two characters that maybe minorly affect. Like they basically were in the world. They didn't really affect the world at all. They were just two characters who were in the world that show you a little bit of a down to earth view of what the city is looking like a little bit more, right? Okay, so but then it's this guy reading a book, like this graphic novel basically, and I get it ties back to this being a graphic novel, blah 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 blah.
And it's sort of a
but
parallel to the.
It has to at least be like 35 minutes at least, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you could cut all of that entire arc out, and I know that's quite a bit, but like I feel like you could cut all of that out. And instead add a couple more scenes with Ozymandias. Add a couple more scenes with
comedian.
With the comedian and show, really flesh out his character. Add maybe even just add some more scenes I don't think this movie needs more flashbacks, really. But just show a lot more of
that's sort of the unique part of Watchmen, right? Is it tells a story through tons and tons of flashbacks.
Mm-hmm. You could add some I couldn't think of anything else personally because I don't know much more content basically, but there could be. I think there has to be more stuff they could have added from the graphic novel.
They could have definitely added 35 minutes of just comedian and Ozymandias.
The thing is, I can see why they didn't do that because if we're gonna take off the glasses here and look into the real world, probably. Cause I haven't watched the other cut, but I'm assuming that Black Freighter thing seems like a pretty easy add in post, for an Ultimate Cut, comparatively.
Because it's just 2D.
It's two other characters that you don't need to bring back any of your main actors, and it's two other characters, and most of it's animated.
Yeah.
So I could see that's a pretty easy add. Otherwise, because animation's not easy, but it doesn't require people to be like it there
Yeah,
as
it doesn't
as
require
much.
set. Right.
Exactly. It just requires some other stuff. It requires time, but it's not
Yeah.
like it requires as many like stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
I just did think of, because we were talking a little bit before.
Though I would like to say, for the extended cut, the Ultimate Edition, it feels like it should have the Black Freighter, because the Black Freighter is like a pretty major part of the graphic novel, right? So I feel like the extended cut, the maximum cut, should have it. Like, it would be nice to have those minutes go to the other characters, but like I feel like not putting it in there would be sort of a disappointment.
You could have
to the fans of the graphic novel, who
yeah,
are going to
I
be
guess.
mostly the ones watching the
Ultimate Cut.
The Ultimate Cut.
I guess that makes sense.
I was thinking about, I was like, because you guys were saying some disadvantages to the Black Freighter thing. But you know what I actually realized, for me, was an upside to the Black Freighter thing?
Yeah.
It felt like a little bit of a breathing moment. It felt like we
that's true.
were in the
That
Watchmen
is true,
world,
yeah.
and then we go to Black Freighter, and since it's not quite as important as what's actually going on in the movie, it's just kind of a side thing. It's almost like a breathing moment. It takes a little break. It broke it up for me a little bit, so I could almost like, okay, it's Black Freighter for a second. I readjust. I go on my phone for a second, because it is important, but it's not the meat of the story.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I just thought of that I didn't mind about the Black Freighter being in there.
I can see your point. Like I said, those breathing moments are nice, but what's the right word? Like, I feel like that. Like, I mean, obviously, this Ultimate Cut's probably mainly meant for not fan service, but that's
Right.
It's targeted towards
It's made for the more
people who watch the graphic novel, read the graphic novel.
like the stronger fans, like the more intense fans. That's
Mhm. But honestly, I feel like you could, if we're just treating this as a movie, which is how I'm treating it, because I haven't read the graphic novel. I feel like you could
in a vacuum.
In a vacuum, the entire slowing down like a long movie like this is I find detrimental because it's already long enough. So what's the right word? Like I wouldn't say I have a slow attention span, but I felt like I was zoning out a little bit sometimes because this movie's so long, and then we go to these Black Freighter scenes basically, right? And it just feels like it didn't take me out, but it just slowed things down a little bit more, which is I didn't think the movie needed personally.
So for you, the breaks were like the opposite of helpful.
They weren't unhelpful, but I feel like they could have rather used that time better, or like we could have moved the plot along a little bit faster and had like a slightly more faster pace.
Okay.
With the graphic novels again, something that you guys can't relate with so much. When the Black Freighter came on, it would be like a page, sometimes 2 pages of the Black Freighter before getting back to the real world.
Like shorter breaks.
Well, I would say it's like relatively the same break, but what I was most interested in the graphic novel was the characters, like the superheroes, the Rorschach, Night Owl, Ozymandias, Comedian. All of that was the stuff that made me want to really come back, and read it. Which the Black Freighter was popping up there and like, Black Freighter section. I almost felt like bored while reading. It was entertaining in its own way, but I was reading it for those interesting characters, and that was sort of getting me out of it. In the movie, I was actually more positive of the Black Freighter because I don't know why, I just felt more. It was interesting, like visually interesting, because in the graphic novel, it's drawings, and then Black Freighter, which is also drawings of a comic book. Whereas this is live action, and then 2D animation. That's really cool.
That is actually, that contrast is nice.
Just out of curiosity, did they change the art style or the artist at all in the graphic novel when they went to Black Freighter, or was it the same?
Oh, it was definitely somewhat. I'm not sure if it's a different artist, but the style was definitely different. But it was still just like drawings. So there was definitely a switch. I'm not saying there's not a switch in style between them, but it's a lot less severe, a lot less drastic than when you're watching super dark anime or super dark live action, and then this more colorful animation, which is entertaining.
Makes sense.
I think either way, no matter what our opinions are on the pacing and how long it is, I think no matter what, when you sit down to watch, this isn't I'll throw it on in the background.
Absolutely.
This isn't in-depth, okay, I want to sit and invest myself for a couple hours. I think the thing I said after was like, I could write a paper on this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very It's a very
Andrew definitely could.
Very easily.
It's
in depth.
It's a very in depth, story heavy. There's a lot going
Making
on.
a point.
Yes.
I'm not. I can't. To be honest, I'm not like super like clear on what the point, the theme, and all that sort of more detailed stuff, right? Because that's not what I'm in it for. But you could definitely feel that there was those. They were trying to make a point and make a commentary on our own world. In a more extreme, hyperbolic way.
Makes sense.
The only other thing I was going to say was, I don't know if this has to do with, this is a very vague thought. I don't know if it has to do with the runtime or the way the story was communicated. By the end of the movie, I liked it. I knew what was going on, but I had to kind of think. I had to take it all in for a moment.
Yeah.
I had to go, so what happened again? Where was the point? Where did we start again? Because it's gone on a long time. And you have to think back to the start and go, so what exactly happened in that 4 hours again? Which, I don't know that there's a way they could have made that more concise. It's just by the end I was a little bit like, it's a lot to stomach.
I guess reading the graphic novel first helped me with that because I didn't feel that way nearly as much. I guess I knew the basics of the story. They changed it some, obviously, but I knew the basics of the story, right? So I was not having to process every moment as it went. I had already had time to process it beforehand, right? So I had that advantage going in, which I guess helped. And I guess that's another reason why this one is designed for your more intense fans.
I think this is designed almost as more like a second viewing, personally, right? Because it's more targeted towards people who would have like went to go see it in theaters or whatever, and then go buy the Ultimate Cut or whatever and watch that as a second viewing.
That's a good
right?
point.
Because then you would understand, you would know a good portion of what's already in this movie, basically, and then you'd be able to enjoy those moments again and the new stuff that like is added with this like the extended cut of this movie. And I think that would like I could see if I watched like Watchmen and then the Ultimate Cut, I think I could have probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But
I could see that.
overall, that's the way I see it, at least.
You know what I think is interesting about this one is, like, I almost want to go back and watch the theatrical cut just to see what it would be like, because I know there is certain movies from this director that you need to watch the extended cut in order for it to be a good movie.
So yeah, if you didn't know, it's Zack Snyder who directs The Watchmen also.
Some of his movies you only watch the extended cut. Whereas I feel like this one is interesting because the extended cut adds, but from what I've heard, it's still a digestible good movie, not being the extended cut as well. So I'd want to go back and see if I was to watch the regular cut, the director's, and the ultimate, which I would enjoy the most. Which is, I think, nice with a movie that if all the cuts work, then you can just pick what works best for you. I think we were discussing that, how whoever likes whichever one can just watch.
That's why it's nice that there's multiple cuts.
Because I think I was saying I'm good with the director's cut if I was to watch it again. I don't know that I watched the Ultimate Cut again unless I was super invested. If I went back and read the book and became like a Watchmen super fan, I might watch the Ultimate Cut. But where I am now, directors would be fine for me personally.
Okay.
We're gonna move on from kind of where we were, if you don't mind me trailing into something else. Visually, like the style, the visuals, the acting, those things that aren't story based. We've been talking very much story stuff. What do you guys? Yes.
Okay, so this is an older movie. It is 2009 versus we're in 2022, so 13 years, and it actually didn't. I didn't notice it being like that dated. Honestly.
No, definitely not.
I thought it was pretty good. Like
the action scenes were exaggerated for regular people, but that's not to do with the being dated or anything.
These guys are superheroes.
Yeah, but they don't have powers as a thing, right?
Oh, they don't?
No, some of them do.
I think some of them have to have. Well, Dr. Manhattan definitely.
Dr. Manhattan obviously has powers.
And
Ozymandias is just the smartest.
He's just really smart.
Smartest, best person. He doesn't actually have.
Does he not have any power? Because he jumped super high, and I was like,
he's technically just a regular. He's just the most. He's the most intelligent person. The most physical, like physically.
Really?
Yeah, he's
Because
just...
it almost looked like
just-
he flew at one point.
I
was
think.
like-
Well, I swear that's actually weird because I thought like at least some of them might have like some kind of like at least enhanced strength or
I
something.
believe I believe Dr. Manhattan is the only character with actual powers in the...
Interesting.
I mean, I guess that would make sense because none of them actually really got an origin story.
Yeah, most of them are just regular people that started.
Yeah, although that seems kind of insane now. Like some of those action scenes, like the one guy where he like put the knee bone out. Like,
Yeah.
how many martial arts do you need to know to you can start like freaking deboning a human? Like,
Yeah.
That wasn't one of the things. I'm more just questioning other scenes, like when they
I'm not saying that's a
jump
bad thing.
super far, or like
It was the style of the movie, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't mind when I first saw it. I'm like, oh, this is exaggerated, and I'm like, oh, it's exaggerated. That's fine.
I
I'll
could
just
see-
enjoy
I-
it as exaggerated.
I'll
which
just say my
wasn't a bad
headcanon
thing.
is they're peak human. Done.
Yeah.
interesting. So this is new to me because I even watched before. I just naturally assumed they just had powers we didn't talk about. Not powers, just they're all enhanced or
Right.
something. And learning this now,
It would make
That's
sense.
It is interesting.
It makes sense because like we only see Dr. Manhattan. Like he's the only one we actually seen get like an origin, basically, right? And like, yeah, okay. I guess I could kind of see it honestly.
the people without knowing this, I assumed the people who didn't have powers were the comedian, Night Owl 2, but I assumed that what's her name?
Spectre.
Yeah.
Silk
I assumed
Spectre.
she had powers just because Night Owl 2 was driving the ship and she like jumped in the burning building at one
Right.
point. I was like, so she has powers, right?
Nope.
No,
Not
she's
as
just-
far as I know. I believe she's just a ordinary, well-trained woman.
And I assumed
Black Widow type.
I assumed Rorschach has no powers. So it was really only Ozzy and Silk Spectre that I assumed had powers. But
Yeah, I guess. I mean, their stuff just like if you realistically, if you exaggerate slightly for a movie, and then that seems most of that stuff seems pretty human.
I mean, in the first scene, you see the hooded character who we realize is Ozymandias pick up.
Yeah, that's that scene. I was like, what?
Pick up the comedian by his back, lift him up, and throw him through bulletproof glass.
Yeah,
I assumed.
I was like, what the?
Okay, hold on. I assumed that because the police were like, oh, no, this is really powerful glass. Like, how could they have gone? So I assumed at the end when they were explaining that it was him, I was like, oh, that's how they got through the glass. He got him through the glass because he's a super strong.
I mean, he is very strong, but I do not believe that he's super strong. I guess I could be wrong, but maybe in the movie they did like not mention the powers. But as far as I know, it doesn't have any powers at all, other than being the best in every aspect.
Okay.
I was just looking up here. He's depicted as a pinnacle of human physical ability to the point of being able to reflexively catch
Yeah, he caught a
a
bullet. He caught a bullet.
So I guess
I don't think peak human could catch a bullet. Like
I guess this is like a world
highly
a world of-
exaggerated.
a highly exaggerated world in many ways.
It's meant to. Well, humans are a lot. What's the right? Well, obviously, it's just peak humans, just a lot higher than what me and you can
yeah.
even what realistically would be peak human in our world. Although, to be fair, there are people who like there's bodybuilders who can lift cars. So, like, you know,
Yeah.
It does help it for me though, because at the end, when Night Owl and Rorschach were fighting, how do you pronounce his name? Ozymandias.
Ozymandias, I believe.
Me thinking he had powers because I kind of saw him as the Superman. I was like, why has he not just killed them? But then it would make sense if he's not that much stronger than them. Why he wouldn't have?
like they're also skilled fighters too. you
Yeah.
know?
And he doesn't want to kill them.
No, he doesn't need to.
I think this is also not like a focus point of the movie. Like that's why
No.
they didn't put too much because it's not the point.
Well, they're just people who go out in costumes at night and do shit.
Yeah,
Costume
but like
adventures they call them.
it's not the things we're focusing on because there's
No.
all this other stuff going on in the story and everything.
Oh yeah. But it's interesting to think about though.
Anyways, we kind of went off tangent from what we thought of it. So we were saying the action scenes were good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to jump in with, I thought visually, like I always like Zack Snyder's stuff visually, it's always pretty good.
I felt a really dark fit fit here.
It
very
worked.
His
dark.
layer of dark that he put.
But
in.
it worked. I have to say, it worked quite well with this.
I've never found something that he's put a layer of dark on that hasn't worked for it. He even if he manipulates it a little bit, it always works with it. It's never silly. It always works with whatever he's whatever tone he's picked. I thought the good action scenes were few and far between, but when they did come, they were they hit well. Like when there was a good action scene, you were like, nice.
Yeah, what I liked was sort of that layer of dark was pulled off a little bit when the action happened, right? So, like in the jail when they're fighting, it wasn't super shadowy, hiding their fights. When they're in the alleyway, the Silk Spectre and Night Owl, it wasn't super dark. Like you could see every hit. Like they were letting you see. They weren't concealing it. They were letting you see every hit. Which I really like that.
I think my favorite action scene in the movie was the jail. Them just walking through that hallway in the jail, taking all the guys out. I think that was one of the strongest action scenes. And I thought the action was really well done too. It wasn't like lots of times nowadays they'll do the shaky action where it's hard to follow. It was always pretty.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is they made the action clear. They showed you the action
exactly, which he always. I feel like Zack Snyder always does that pretty well because he uses a lot of slow motion, which gives you a second to adjust and figure out where everything is.
Just makes the movie longer.
Yeah, but when it comes to an action scene, it gives you a second to realize where everything is and where the people are, and then it resumes in regular pace. What would you guys say is your favorite action sequence in the movie?
Yeah, the action, it's a superhero movie.
It's
a superhero movie, but it's not so much an action movie. It's more a drama than an action movie, I would say. Which about the characters and about the world, which I enjoyed. I enjoy a good action scene as well, but there's not an action scene that I'm like, oh, I'm super into this action scene. Okay. It was the little things that Rorschach did that I liked, like tying that guy's arms, breaking his fingers, tying his arms, and so he had to cut off his arms. In the bar when Rorschach has the glass,
breaks the glass,
he grabs his hand and crushes the glass. That's awesome.
Killing his hand. That's just
Rorschach going into the bathroom with
that swinging door, right?
And this every time the door swings and creaks, he gets slightly closer, and then there's just blood leaking out.
And they just leave the blood.
That was
the little visual things like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, those were all quick. Even that was just.
And like we mentioned earlier, when he threw the oil on that guy.
Yeah. We've talked about a lot of positive things. Do you think there was anything out of the realm of what they could have included or not included, or story or characters? Other aspects like visuals or stuff like that. Is there anything? Do you guys have any criticisms on that? Anything that you think could have been better?
For the time, I feel like I don't have any complaints about the visuals specifically.
No, the visuals
it didn't seem
visuals. The action, you guys were
action. It was a little. Well, I mean, obviously, but I think it fits with the tone of the movie.
I was not usually in superhero movies. The action is a big part that I'm watching it for. Yeah. If you go an hour without action, it feels why not? Yeah. But in this one, I never felt that way. When the action came on, I'm like, oh, let's get back to the characters. I'm excited to get back to the characters. Yeah, I felt more like that in this movie. Because I love the characters. All the characters are they're all flawed and interesting in different ways that I just really enjoy. Even disregarding the graphic novel, even in the movie, they're just I just love all the characters. So that's why I'm watching it, not for the action and the fighting, but for the character interactions and all that.
Right. So there wasn't anything visually that stuck out to you or anything. That wasn't a big enough part for you to... Obviously, if there was something really ridiculous looking, we would have noticed it. So, you guys agree that part wasn't a huge part, but when it was there, it was flawless.
Even the CGI and all that looked fine. The Archie, his Night Owl's big flying hovercraft thing, that looked... there was no point where I looked at that and I'm like, oh, that does not look real.
It was usually at night, but it still looked good.
That's true. But there was a scene when he was approaching Ozymandias' base, but it was in broad daylight, and that did not look bad to me.
I didn't have complaints about that. It wasn't.
And when it crash landed on Antarctica, that looked fine.
What about his his tiger thing or whatever.
The tiger. You're right.
That was yeah.
That even actually having the green and black tiger thing in the graphic novel even brought me out a little bit.
Well, because
it didn't look fake, obviously, because it's all drawn, but it's still like a little too mythical, exaggerated. They explain it better in the. It actually has like a point in the graphic novel. In the graphic novel, he's working with genetic stuff, and that was one of his earliest successes, but they don't really mention that in the...
Was there a point in the movie? Or because I might have missed it, because I just missed things in this long of a movie, but was there any explanation as to why he's here in the movie?
As far as I could tell, there's no... He's
just on Ozymandias' pet.
I would have actually, to be honest...
I would have just cut that.
I would have cut... Well,
Bubastis.
That's his name.
He doesn't even have he didn't have a name in the movie.
They mentioned it once or twice. He says it once or twice.
I disagree.
But
I was there. But I gotta say, like, yeah, that
I agree.
That seemed a little strenuous.
Although they should have not had it in the theater cut, the director's cut, but in the extended
Ultimate Cut.
Sure. They need to
throw it in because it's a thing.
It's
a thing that was in the graphic novel. I think that's probably what its role was, but I feel like they could at least mention one line saying,
he actually had a point in the graphic novel, like I mentioned, but
or just at least mention genetics.
There's no reason. There's absolutely no reason for him to be in the.
If you would have at least just mentioned, if you would have had one offline, just mentioning Ozymandias and genetics, at least,
or at least had one scene of Ozymandias sitting on his chair and stroking Bubastis to look evil.
Yeah,
that would have been.
I just came out of the door. I was like,
he just turns around in the chair and he's like Dr. Claw.
I mean, there sort of is that in the graphic novel. He looks at there is his screen wall, all the 20 different screens on that one wall that's in the movie, but in the graphic novel, he's sitting there on a chair watching them all, taking in all the information. And stroking Bubastis, which is where you start to... that's the first scene where you start to realize, that doesn't seem like a good guy thing to do, Really? That does not seem like a good guy thing.
No, I do it every Friday night. That's completely normal, honestly.
Remind me not to disturb Ryan on his Friday nights. Okay. Do we have any final thoughts about anything?
Overall...
there was something I wanted to mention when we were talking about the character stuff that I forgot to mention. Rorschach's narration sort of reminded me of the narration in The Batman.
I was thinking of that too.
And in The Batman, I was at the start, I'm like, oh, they're gonna do narration. I like this. This is an interesting new way of doing Batman. And then they just only did it right at the beginning, right at the end, which I was disappointed at. But this felt like it did that, but throughout the whole thing, which was really entertaining. I loved his narration because you get a window into his psyche that's it wouldn't be as interesting in The Batman because it's the main character that you're meant to relate with going through. But
the Batman one, I think it works fine in that movie just because it's checking in with him at the start and checking in with him.
Yeah, at the end. I like the way they did it was not. It was not terrible.
See,
but I would have liked it more if they continued it through. The way Cap doing it at the start and the end, that's fine. That's a very sort of artsy thing to do.
Yeah.
Right, but I think it would have been more interesting of a movie if they'd kept it throughout the.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, I think we're not talking.
We're not talking
about the Watchmen.
Yeah, that's completely unrelated.
I think it definitely worked in the Watchmen.
It definitely worked in the Watchmen.
I liked it
because it was in the graphic novel as well. Narration through his journal.
Okay, closing thoughts. And so I want you guys to do a closing thought. Anything you final want to say about it, or you can just say it was good. And then out of 10, we typically do.
Okay, so closing thought. The characters were my favorite part in the graphic novel. Continue to be my favorite part in the movie. Some of them, the more important ones, Night Owl and Rorschach, transferred really well. Some of the other ones didn't transfer quite as well, but I was still entertained by their characters. So the characters were my favorite part of the graphic novel and continue to be my favorite part of the movie. That's my thought. So I was happy with both.
Okay.
And out of 10, I'll do for the graphic novel. The graphic novel was very good. I would say a 9 for the graphic novel. I really enjoyed the graphic novel. The movie, I would say a solid 7.5, 8. So definitely on the higher side, not exceptional, but good.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Okay.
say.
Ryan.
There you go.
No, okay. I thought we were doing Xavier, Ryan, me.
Yeah, that's the order at the start. But
No, Ryan wants
Ryan
to
to
hold it
cap
for
it
the
off.
Shaking it off.
I don't have any graphic novel knowledge, as we know, but I thought the movie was really good. I would watch it again. I did like the characters as well. I thought they balanced the time between the characters well. Like, I never, for the most part, apart from the things we mentioned, like the comedian, I thought I never forgot about anybody. They bounced between everybody really well. And I would give it, I don't know, I think I give it a 7.5.
Okay.
But it's only a 7.5. Ryan.
So I mirror a lot of the things that you guys have said, because overall I quite liked the movie. It was pretty. It brought me in. I wasn't super excited to watch it, but by the end I was like, okay, that was worth the time, basically. And yeah, the characters were interesting. Like I said, there was some like ironically and unironically funny parts in the movie.
Yeah.
And overall, I quite liked it. I'd say it's probably like in between a pretty good and a great.
Okay. It's pretty good and a great out of 10. So, that concludes our episode for today, I think. Follow us on, we have Twitter, we have Instagram. All of that you can find from the YouTube page.
And the About section of our channel.
That's the place. And we should be doing more episodes. Well, we promise it every time. Every time we promise more episodes coming soon, and we sometimes deliver and sometimes don't. So hopefully promises.
Soon.
We'll have some more stuff coming
Although
soon.
there's a plan now.
There is a plan.
Oh, there's a plan. I've not heard about this plan.
There's a plan.
There's a plan. It's a secret plan, but it's a plan.
Secret plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you everybody for listening. This has been the Fellowship of the Films podcast. I'm Ryan with other star Duncan and our guest Xavier.
The great.
The great one, yes. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye.